Hello, this is Professor Truth, and I'm bringing you a special edition on Planet X, or Planet 7X, presented by the Leak Project and Gill Broussard. I've highlighted some key points here, and the purpose of this special event is to emphasize the closeness of the hour, the end is upon us, and to get people to be a little more serious about their lives and how they want to proceed from this point forward. Gill Broussard claims that Planet X Extinction Level Event may occur in the next 14 to 18 months. It is my assertion, however, that he may be off a little bit only because of his assumption that Jacob's trouble of 20 years starts 2001. It is my assertion, Professor Truth, that September 23rd, 2017 marked T0, or the sign in the sky, Revelation 12 star sign. And if you count 20 days from that point, that would likely be the event, Planet X event that Gill is talking about. That also happens to align with at least my last estimation of when the next Revelation 12 star sign occurs. It also aligns with potentially the last Trump, should there be a second term. With that, I'd like everybody to pray to Jesus Christ and get very serious, for the time is upon us. This is Professor Truth. Enjoy the Leak Project and Gill Broussard.
Well, this is a life or death issue. This is not. I don't look. The videos you see, I don't make a profit on that. For the ones who think the Earth is flat, I can't help you because this model is not going to work.
Ladies and gentlemen, Rex Bear Leak Project, how the heck are you? We're going to look at the latest projections of a Planet X flyby, and this is some of the most compelling evidence yet. We're going to look at multiple slides. We're going to look at science meeting scripture. That's what's fascinating about this. Multiple levels. Really excited to have Gill back on the program again. Gill has been a researcher for years in the Planet X phenomenon. He has kind of coined it Planet 7X, which I find fascinating. And we're just going to look at the latest numbers as well, possibility of the Planet 9, that they call it, being a dark star. They recently said, oh, it could be a basketball-sized black hole. But then an article comes out the next day that says, black holes aren't really what you think they are anyway. So much disinformation out there. Thank you so much for coming on the program, Gill. Good to see you. How are you?
You're welcome, Rex. It's a pleasure to be back on your show again.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I also wanted to say you've got some of the best slides out there and these projections, and I really like the detail you put into why you have these orbits and the dates, etc. I mean, you put a lot of thought into this, and it's not just something you say, oh, I'm projecting it because I have a feeling or because I saw an image of a lens flare. Actually, I don't even think we've seen it yet.
No, there's no valid sightings in the public realm at this moment. Remember, there's 2 to 3 million amateur astronomers globally that the government doesn't really control. So if anyone would actually have an actual sighting besides a sundog, lens flare, or atmospheric anomalies, which are common, they would be more than glad to point their telescope and be the first, second, third, fourth, even the 10th to capture it. You would see multiple pictures. They would show the coordinates, which most people, when they show a picture, they don't show coordinates. They have no clue where it is in the sky, and so on and so on. There is nothing valid in the public realm now. Father Malachi Martin, they had pictures with the Vatican, and NASA had pictures, but there's nothing in the public realm at the moment. It has to come closer for us to be able to see that.
Can we start with, Gill, the 2021 projection that you think could very well be a possibility? And can I share that slide to move into that?
Sure. Let me share my screen, and I'll bring it up here. The Bible says this next event, and that's a bold statement, it says is the worst event in all of Earth's history. Noah's flood is not the worst event. This next event is. So kind of think the severity of that we're talking about. All right, this is a drawing made from the software model.
Okay.
When we reverse engineer the data we have at hand of using the orbit that was established in 1054 AD by the Asian astronomers, the Chinese, Korean, and the Japanese. Remember, each emperor had maybe, let's say, around 20 astronomers. They were the best in the country, and then they worked for the emperor. So you had about 60 astronomers here that put their name to this at the time in 1054. So I was able to read their data, and I was able to project this path, and this follows Kepler's laws of planetary motion. Now, we know it's orbital path. The Bible gives us the hour. It says mid of night, okay? And that's a night that is 12 hours longer than a normal night, because Earth's rotation is slowing down because Earth is entering into the plasma tail. And the month is going to be around Passover. It's going to be, the crossing will happen 3.5 days after Passover. Now, what year it is, that's what's in question. The Bible does not give us, as clear as mid of night. It doesn't give us a year. There is the point about Jacob's trouble. If you go read the story of Jacob, which is 20 years before he left his father-in-law. Well, from 2001, which I'm saying is the beginning of Jacob's trouble, and even the rabbis said that. From 2001, you add 20 years, you got 2021. So this model right here is using the end of March of 2021. And if we back it up, I have right here shown at the beginning of each month the position on where it would be following Kepler's laws of planetary motion. You can see how the gap widens as it gets closer to the sun because it's picking up speed, because the closer it gets to the sun, the more force is used to pull it and the faster it goes. And then like it slingshots around the sun on its way out. So once it reached what's called perihelion, which is basically the backside of the sun of its orbit, you have 40 days before it arrives and crosses Earth orbit right here in March over here. That's the same thing as Jonah's warning in the Bible, where he warned Nineveh that on what they saw, he just pointed to the sky, and he says, your doom comes in 40 days. Well, it's quite interesting that when we use software, it shows us a 40-day orbital period between perihelion and the time it crosses Earth's orbit. There's too many things that are exact in the Bible. The sequence of events, the 3 hours of darkness, you name it, there's multiple points that the neural model that the physicists gave us using electrically ruled universe works out. The model works out where a gravity model doesn't. So the physicists are more correct on how the universe is working than the astronomers are at the moment. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We have 14 events from Yeshua's sacrifice to Noah, and possibly another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 after the flood. And we have another 5 events in between Yeshua and to now, from now. So from right here to here, from where we're talking about. So we have quite a few events. A lot of these are similar as far as the viewing Street, only about 3 to 4 times, possibly as much as 6 from one particular record, but I can only prove about 3 times that Earth is tilted, possibly 4. But the rest of the time, it didn't get close enough to cause us to tilt. It doesn't always pass close to Earth. That's when it's the most severe. Is when it really passes close to us. The Bible says this next event, and that's a bold statement. It says is the worst event in all of Earth's history. Noah's flood is not the worst event. This next event is. So kind of think the severity of that we're talking about. This is roughly if you read Revelation using some astronomy knowledge, Seal 6, which is right here, Seal 6 talks about fiery hail, that's the meteor shower, and there's some other details. Seal 7 is right here, where the fiery mountain, you can see it right here, this fiery mountain. You're going to have a bunch of other debris, but one of the pieces of debris is the size of a mountain, literally. And it hits Earth around the Pacific Ocean. That's wormwood. The actual planet is called the fiery dragon of old. They're 2 different things. And sometimes it's called in the Bible the fiery sword. Greeks and Romans would call it a fiery sword. Anyone in Israel and Asia would have called it a fiery dragon. That's what it is in the text still today. Whenever we read texts about it, and you see it throughout the culture, a fiery dragon. And in 7, now keep in mind the way the writers write on this occasion, they'll tell you the beginning, they'll tell you the end right here, then they'll describe what happens in between the 2 points. And that's exactly the way the book of Revelation is written. First it says Seal 6, then Seal 7. Part of Seal 7 is describing the events that happen in between it. They say that they wish death for 150 days before death comes to them right here. This is the second event. 150 days in between these 2 is 5 months, which is also mentioned in Revelation. This is the same way of Noah's flood. For the ones who think the earth is flat, I can't help you because this model is not going to work. Here's Noah's flood. Remember how it says in the end days it'd be like Noah's flood. The flood happened right here where there's other text that says 7 floodgates of heaven opened up, but that's not a normal rain. Okay, that's 7 meteors that punctured the upper canopy of water, and it flooded the earth, as well as water coming from underneath. For 150 days, which is the 5-month period right here, this is when Noah noticed a great wind coming over the waters, and then the water started to recede. Well, that was the impact you see right here. This is what caused the Gulf of Mexico, and that on the opposite side of Earth, that knocked off 71% of Earth crust. Okay, because the crust is only loosely held on by gravity. It's not glued on like you would think. It's not. That's why the continents shift. They're not glued. They're just sitting on there because of weight. And 71% of our crust is missing right now. That's the volume of our ocean, and that happens to be the exact volume of our moon. The moon was actually created during Noah's flood. About 300 years later, it was fully formed as a circular disk. And that shows up in the first stela right here. This stela, this is Nimrod, and you see 3 equally sized objects in the sky. One's the sun, one's the moon, and this is our planet right here, this one right here. And this is the first time, the oldest object that I'm able to find that represents the moon in there. And this is when the Tower of Babel was destroyed. And so the moon, according to a German scientist, it only takes 300 to 400 years for the moon to coalesce from debris. And the moon is made of large chunks. It's not made of fine material. Matter of fact, that's what I have photos from it. I can show you from NASA. This is a drawing from NASA that shows that the moon is made of big chunks, big, large pieces. Now, do you think these large pieces, the way they showed, were just moving around in space? Coming from a distant, some other universe? No. It had to be a short distance. And we know the moon came from the Earth, but they don't have a model that actually works, because it didn't happen when Earth was molten. It happened when Earth was fully formed. This is the Nebra sky disk, and we can date this to a date that gives us the exact day of the mid of the drought of Joseph of Egypt. And this was found in Germany. And the Germans at the time were not trying to make the Bible true, because there was only 12 Hebrews, at the time of this. So they didn't even know that the Hebrews even existed, or even if there was a tribe called Israel yet. So, but this proves, remember how Joseph had a dream at age 17 where the skies bowed to him, and he's 40, right here in Egypt. Well, I can prove to you the skies literally bowed to him, because from his point of view, the skies are bound, but on the actual, Earth is tilting 26 to 28 degrees. When two magnets get close to each other, these two planets have the opposite poles attract each other. They tilt 26 to 28 degrees towards each other. And then as it's leaving, they straighten out again. And this is what the text is telling us. He had a dream before it happened, and it actually happened when he was in mid of the drought in Egypt. Then right after that, we have this one right here. That was Job's trouble. If you read Job's trouble, it has some interesting points. The first thing that it starts out with is that his shepherds and his flock were totally consumed. That means there was no bodies, no animals, none of the shepherds. They were vaporized because a meteor exploded in the air just above them. And then the pressure wave, you can read it later, that the pressure wave knocked down the building that his kids were staying in. They were getting ready to celebrate Passover, or the Feast of Unleavened Bread, basically. And the wind was so strong, because it's like a hurricane wind. It collapsed the building and killed his kids. And that's the way the story even starts with Job. Go back and read it. Right here, it gives us the exact date. It shows all of the planets, even the ones that were below the horizon, because they knew the time frame, just like a clock, where the planets were. They knew their orbit. It shows the moon. It shows the sun. And what's very interesting, it shows Isis or Horus right here. That's our planet. This is what they called it. And this is what this stone right here is showing us, and it gives us the exact date. February 8th, 1352. You have to, let's see here. You have to subtract 10 years from this date in astronomy, because everything past Hezekiah was 360-day year. Not until Hezekiah did the calendar change to 365 and a quarter day year. We have over like 30 different calendars globally that show that prior to Hezekiah's time, everybody was on a 360-day calendar. And it was not because they didn't know how to count, because there were ancient observatories. Let's see if I have a picture of it. I don't have a picture on this one. But they have ancient observatories where they knew how many days of the year it was. Now, just like you had showed me that ancient rock there, okay? If I had enough information like this, the constellations, and then something representing the planets right here, I can give you a date, especially if we know where it was made. So we know that this was made in Nineveh. It was found in the library of Sennacherib. This was Sennacherib's astronomer that's making this, and he was making the comments of Jonah. Jonah was there saying, in 40 days your doom comes. Well, the astronomer is documenting it. And if you zoom in right here, this is our planet right here. It's going to have a tail like a comet. And it's on the ecliptic. They have a line that goes right through the sun right here. And this gives you the exact date. You can go back in time and find it. This is it right here. February 17th, 687. Now, if you go, you see where it was at 40 days? It was right behind the sun. Earth is over here. Earth can see it. The people on Earth can see it right here. Now, when this thing moves 40 days, it'll be right here. Same thing with Earth. In 40 days, they're going to have a very close call. And that's how come you read about Hezekiah, where the shadow went backwards on steps. The two planets got so close to each other that the magnetic pull caused Earth to tilt 26 to 28 degrees. Right here. It says right here, the shadow went backwards on steps. Well, that is easy to calculate. See, a sundial gives you a tilt from, or the Earth had to stop on its axis because it's east to west. The shadow on a sundial is from east to west. Well, that's impossible for the Earth to come to a screeching halt, reverse 10, let's say it was 10 degrees, then come to a complete stop, and then speed up several times faster because there's no lost time mentioned in the Bible, and come back to the original time frame. All the oceans would have emptied out of the place and covered the land, much less all of the massive earthquakes you would have. But whenever you change the orientation, it says the sun went down on steps. Well, the sun is in the south, so you point the window of they usually use a window to illuminate the stairs because stairs are dangerous. The sun comes through and it moves 10 steps. 10 steps. Well, that gives you a tilt of the Earth of 26 to 28 degrees. Where did we hear that before? It was on the Nebra sky disk. Okay? And look at Hezekiah's seal that they found. It shows a disc with wings. The wings is not making this into a pagan god. What he's showing is the wings means that it was moving across the sky. It shows movement. And it was in the sky it was moving. Now, what these 3 prongs at the bottom and 3 at the top might be lightning, it might be moons, because I've seen that in the Asian records as well. There's like 7 orbital, but they're not planets. There may be moons, but this is not a mini universe like some people are losing their minds about. Because if it would pass one time, that would have been the end of Earth. Okay, this has passed multiple times, and it's the size of the planet-sized comet-like object. And during Hezekiah's time is when Earth had that, we had a lightning, a plasma hit. I don't have it here. The same thing happened to Sodom and Gomorrah, which is at the same time of Lot. Right here, this right here. Okay, they found Sodom and Gomorrah, and what they found there was trinodite. You see this greenish item right here? That's sand turned to glass. And the only other place that trinodite is found is at a nuclear bomb site in Nevada, where it turned the sand into glass. Well, the only other object that we know of can do this is when a meteor explodes before it hits the ground. If it's an air burst that's close enough to the ground. Remember the one that came over Russia that recently exploded? They were very lucky that it didn't explode closer to the towns, because people would have been vaporized, just like the time of Lot and his wife. Remember in Nagasaki, when that atomic explosion happened, this is where a person was sitting. This is where people were standing on a bridge. This is where a person was standing by a stone wall with a ladder, and he was vaporized. All of these people were vaporized, and their shadows are still there today. Well, just think, if Lot's wife was vaporized because she didn't listen, she came back around after they were behind a protective area, and because she had 2 daughters left in town, because there was 2 towns that were exploded or destroyed, and she heard the first one, then she came out for the second one. The second one went off. She was vaporized. Now her shadow is left. Now, what does ancient man say? Remember, this is not the Father in heaven say, I'll turn it to stone. It's ancient man's description on what they're seeing next. They said she was turned to stone or salt. All this area has a lot of salt in the area. Okay, so that's what, if someone didn't have the word vaporization and didn't know that it was possible, and they see an exact shadow out of it, what would they think? Exactly what they're describing. You can see where they found this is Sodom and Gomorrah, one of them, one of the towns right here. This is the top of the hill, and it's on the north side of the Dead Sea, on the Jordan side, on the Jordanian. They found body parts that were ripped off the bodies like an explosion. The top of the joints were burned. The feet were burnt. The toes were burned. But their limbs were ripped off of their body from an explosion. Here's the side of the building where it's this orange, is because the high heat. It baked it to a different level, and there was a piece of that was turned to glass, but this is baked by high intense heat. And this is found. This is because there was a meteorite that exploded just above, because half the meteors explode before ever hitting the Earth. Well, when I first found this data, I was kind of like that gentleman there. I had quite a few sleepless nights, because I only had part of the answer, and that started with the Asian astronomers' records. I'll pull it up right here. This is it right here. Okay. Remember, I was a hardened skeptic, that because no one would show evidence, they couldn't. They were just these wild claims that didn't work for me. But when I found these white paper reports right here, I could get you a clearer version of this. As far as the hypothesis is the year Like I said, I give estimates on a year because the Bible does not come out and say it's going to happen on this year. It alludes to certain things. One of them is the story of Jacob, 20 years. And we will see troops in the street to be able to hold order, but it won't be because of the planet. They have to cause some other incident, maybe terrorism or whatever. But whenever you start to see troops in the streets, and probably the part of the internet will go down, probably YouTube or any of these news feed that are not controlled, will go down for, let's say, they're spreading propaganda, they'll say, or something like that. Remember, martial law, you can't say anything that's going to panic the public. So even if there would be a planet, if someone says, look, there it is, they can arrest them. So it's left up to you to know where to look, and I show you where to look. I show you what to get, and be patient, because astronomy requires patience. If you want to read about the what changed my mind was this right here. This first white paper report. And this is from the Dublin Institute of Advanced Studies. Like when I show you something, I'm showing you the software, I show you the artifact, and I show you the biblical writings and how they correlate. All three. Now, make up your own mind. You can read it yourself. This is a tapestry right here that shows it in the top corner right here. It shows the fiery dragon of old, and this looks like a meteor shower behind it. That's right here by Harold, King Harold of England, 1054. This was the orbit. This is the capital cities at the time of the astronomers' sightings. They were in these capital cities. And the data shows us all of these points right here. I even have some of the European sightings, but they're not as detailed and accurate. From the European sightings, I cannot establish an orbit. I can establish a date that they saw it and where it would have been on the orbit of the Asian astronomers. But the only ones who are accurate enough to do it is the Asian astronomers. Now, will we see it for 13? We might, but the Bible alludes that we have short notice. So it may be shorter than that. Definitely by June or July, on whatever year that it may be, I'm shooting. I'm very curious whether or not it's going to arrive this next year, because remember, March of 2021 is the arrival, but you back that up 13 months. Well, that puts you at the end of February of 2020 to start looking for it. And I think maybe by June or July, I think the whole world would be able to see it then. But this is what turned me around. And after that, I started losing sleep until I said, okay, when is it coming back? Does it have a track record? Well, first I said, I didn't like what I found. And I said, let me find the Achilles heel so I can disprove it. If it doesn't have a set pattern, where did it show up again in the past? I mean, like, this might not be returned to 3,000 or 4,000 years later. Okay, so if I would have had that knowledge, then we got nothing to worry about. But that's not what I found. It was about every 360 years or so. Is it where they had a couple of shorter turns because it ran into something, and it made a shorter orbit. But its normal orbit without hitting anything is roughly around 360 years. Not the 3,600 years. They got too many zeros on that number. The data is too prevalent, which I can show you right here. It's just too prevalent on how many times it came around. These are all of the documented from Noah's flood to Yeshua, all the way. The information gets sketchy in modern time because in Europe, where most of our data was coming from, Now remember Job. Job went through this event, and he lost his family. So there's two. A lot of people say the Bible doesn't have any scientific information that it's stories. No, these are eyewitness accounts, because there's no way that they can correlate the data without witnessing an actual event. The model dictates, it doesn't guess, it dictates the series, what sequence of items are going to happen to you, okay? And when you go back, they have the exact same sequence. And that's what science is in astronomy. You take observed phenomena, bring it into the laboratory like software, show that it's repeatable, that's science. Well, we have multiple events in the Bible that I can prove is scientifically correct. And there's no way ancient man can do that by guessing. Let me show you. This is, I was trying to figure out the odds. I'm not very good at there's certain things you really can't figure. But this is the events in the Bible, and this is after the Bible, after Yeshua's sacrifice. This is secular. And I listed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 qualifiers that went across all of these objects. Like, does it match the 6,000 year timeline here? You know, of certain events. Yes, it does. Ancient artifacts. Only a few have ancient artifacts. Does it match the patriarchs' ages? Okay. On certain ones, it does. Does it match the astronomy star mapping software? Yes. Does it match orbital mechanics, like Kepler's laws of planetary? Yes. Historical descriptions? Yes. There's even outside historical, not just the Bible. And then, is it prophesied? Certain events were prophesied before they even occurred. So some of these have all 7. Now look at the odds. For it to come within a 2-hour event, you're looking at 1 in 313,000. Now, once you get to the 3rd event, it's no longer an accident. Your odds of probability say you can't. It's beyond what an accident would. It has to be real after that point. After you get past 3, how many of these are past 3? Some of these are all 7. Now, keep in mind, to figure out the entire odds, you got to take this number, multiply times this, times that, times this next one, this one. I don't know what the odds would be for this one or prophesizing. I have no way of calculating odds on that. But you're supposed to multiply these on how many dots are landed. That tells you the total odds per event. So the only one that we only have 2 is over here, where censorship was happening. This is the only thing we have right here is a carved wooden object that shows the event. This one we have 3 right here. That's the medieval. But between here is where censorship was happening in Europe. This is 1054. Have all of them except it wasn't prophesied in the Bible. So it doesn't fit any of these. See, anything secular doesn't fit prophecy. But look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 events. And for Yeshua, the only thing I'm missing is an artifact, and I'm still looking. If I can find an artifact, which I know somewhere out there it exists, then I'll be able to highlight all 7 of these. But think of the odds. Can this be an accident? Impossible. Can't do it. Can't do it. There was a 3-hour eclipse during Yeshua's sacrifice. This was Passover. That's a full moon. The moon's on the opposite side of the sun. So how can you have an eclipse when the moon usually gives you an eclipse of the sun? That's a new moon on this side. But Passover is on a full moon. Moon's on the opposite side. And we have outside text, it's not in the Bible, but outside text of a discussion that the moon was blood red and the sun went dark. That was a double eclipse. When you read the text of the Bible, you find multiple double eclipses. Yes, that's plural on eclipse. Normally, an eclipse is not plural, but in this case, it is. You cannot have a double eclipse in the natural unless there's a third body, like a planet-sized object. The Bible tells you the whole earth went dark. Yes, it did. The moon can only give you 7.3 minutes of darkness because earth will rotate out of the shadow because it only gives you a small period of light. It doesn't give you a full total earth darkness. It gives you like this right here. It gives you a path, and earth will rotate out that path in 7.3 minutes. So how do you get 3 hours? Because the moon was on the back side of earth for Passover, and it was a bigger object, therefore darkening the whole planet. And this was exactly the same spot as Abraham went to do a dry rehearsal of a father killing his son right here on top of the mountain, Abraham and Isaac. Remember, the lamb had his head, his horns were caught in thorns right here. This was the exact spot. Here's the lamb, here's the crown of thorns. There was the exact spot. Here's this. This wasn't even shown at the time because all of this rock right here was quarried to make the wall of Jerusalem. So the exact spot where Yeshua was right over. Abraham was doing this right on top of the spot. This is not an accident. You can't have that type of timing. And the lamb's blood went onto the ark that's hidden in a cave underneath there, anointing the Ark of the Covenant. That fulfilled the practice run that they were practicing for thousands of years. Because there was no Ark of the Covenant in the second temple. It was in the first temple. And when it went, before it was destroyed, they hid it in a cave that Solomon had built for it. Right here, where God told him to put it. And his blood anointed the ark. And this had to come, remember, at the exact hour that he was on the cross for 3 hours of darkness. Did Yeshua ever say to Rome, hey, I'm kind of set for time. Make sure you crucify me make sure I'm on the cross between 12 and 3 because there's going to be this eclipse that you don't know anything about. That's going to give 3 hours of darkness. I need to be up there. Did he say that? He didn't answer his accusers. Didn't tell him anything. The timing is right up to an hour, to the minute, as it will be on the last event coming up here in Revelation. There's no such word in Hebrew as accident because the Almighty controls everything. Well, this is a life or death issue. This is not, look, the videos you see, I don't make a profit on that. For the ones who think the earth is flat, I can't help you because this model is not going to work. For the ones who think the earth is flat, I can't help you because this model is not going to work. For the ones who think the earth is flat, I can't help you because this model is not going to work. The moon has to be at the foot of Virgo. It says the woman is illuminated. It's the tail. This is how the model shows it. The tail illuminates Virgo only. The sun illuminates all of the constellations. And if you read what they're telling you, like a zodiac, the zodiac is the occult. The sign that they're talking about is behind the sun, and you can't see it. That's how the occult shows it. The Mezorah, the Hebrew way of looking at it, is at the nighttime skies. That means they're 6 months out of sync to be able to see Virgo. One is if you use the occult version, you're looking at September. If you use the Mezorah, which is nighttime skies, where only Virgo is illuminated, okay, and anybody and everybody can see it, then you're looking at March. And this is exactly what it's telling you. You have to separate between wrong teaching, like the occult version, which is the zodiac, which it says you're not supposed to use that, versus the Mezarah, which is the Hebrew way of looking at the nighttime skies. So this is what's meant by Virgo, the woman, is being illuminated. Only Virgo is being illuminated with the moon at her feet. The tail of this comet points opposite of the sun, and this is what you will physically see if you're in Jerusalem. You'll only be able to see this from Jerusalem at that time, mid of night, when the Messiah is coming, mid of night. The two witnesses will show up 3.5 days earlier for Passover. You have a meal with them. It's going to be a private meeting because Earth is entering the tail then. That means all generators globally will have to be turned off. So there's no TV crews or radio crews announcing the two witnesses have arrived in it's a private meeting for 3.5 days. Till the last 3.5 days is when, on the last day, mid of night, from Jerusalem, after a 12-hour delay in Earth's rotation, this is what you see in the sky. Well, this is a life or death issue. This is not. I don't look. The videos you see, I don't make a profit on that. For the ones who think the Earth is flat, I can't help you because this model is not going to work.